Call to order the meeting of the Common Council for Tuesday, October 1st. Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. We have 11 members present in the room and 11 members in Civic Clerk. We have one member who is remote today.
Very good. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an invocation offered by Alder Presley. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alder Presley.
We can all sit down. Let's just do this. The end.
All right. Short and sweet. Entertain a motion on the minutes. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Any changes? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. Approval of the agenda. Motion to approve made by Alder DeLee, seconded by Alder Prophet. An amendment by Alder Eck.
Okay, so due to an error with the address listed, I have a motion to move K2 to W4.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Weary.
K2 to W4.
Yes.
I'm sorry, yeah, well, to W, it'll become W4, I guess, because
After W3,
after W3.
because it's a first reading.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So that was seconded. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The agenda has been amended. Entertain. Motion to approve as amended made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Presley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The agenda has been approved as amended. Report by the mayor, just one item real quick. Just wanted to congratulate Director Ditchite and Ms. Mim, our park planner, for winning a pretty substantial grant for Bay Beach, $2.4 million for some shoreline work and the construction of a pretty substantial pier out there that I think everybody's really excited about. So thanks to the Parks Committee for their approval and acceptance of the grant. But more importantly, as importantly, thanks to staff for all the work that has been put into it. Thanks to the Friends of Bay Beach for their support for everything that's been going out there for many years. So with that, we'll move along to announcements from council. Alder Prophet.
I'd just like to acknowledge the conclusion of Good Neighbor Week last week. It seemed like from Sunday to Saturday there was events in all the neighborhoods. So I'd just like to congratulate all the projects and the homeowners who got some facelifts, and then all the neighborhood associations who had a part in making that week the best Good Neighbor Week, the 5th annual, and look forward to future years and more participation each year.
Absolutely. Well said. Thanks, Alder. Alder Eck.
Okay, yes, and I just want to, I guess, recognize that it's National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Alder Stevens gave us all a pen and a pin in honor of that, and so just remembering that, and then also National Domestic Violence Month, and so I'm requesting if we could all wear purple next time for that.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, thanks, Alder. And thanks to Alder Stevens.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Alder Morgan.
I would just like to thank our fire chief and his department for having a wonderful presentation. 9 of us were able to attend. I just was an observer, actually, but the other 8 worked their butts off. I'm sure they were quite sore on Monday morning. And I would say this council at this point has got a better knowledge of the working order of the fire department than any in the past. So once again, I'd like to thank them and him and his men and women for the great job they did in allowing us to do that.
Excellent. Thanks, Alder. I did that about 11 years ago. Hopefully nothing's changed. But yeah, it's a great experience. Any other announcements? All right, we'll move along to appointments. Motion to approve the one appointment that was made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that appointment has been confirmed. On to our public hearings. So we have a public hearing on a request to adopt an amendment to the Smart Growth 2022 Comprehensive Plan of the City of Green Bay to property located at the 1100 block of Hobart Drive parcel 6H-1110-19, and 1116 Hobart Drive, parcel 6H-1110-1, from commercial to medium high-density residential, CPA 24-03. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak to that item? Anyone here who'd like to speak to that item? Anyone here to speak? Clerk, let the record reflect there's no one here to speak on that item.
Yes, thank you.
Then we'll move along to ordinances, second reading for adoption. I would entertain. Yep. Alder Prophet makes a motion to suspend the rules and take up these items with one roll call vote. Seconded by Alder Stevens. Discussion. That's already been moved. Yeah, it's already been moved out of there, but good point. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll use the board.
You may vote.
All right, those are adopted unanimously. Report of the Improvement and Services Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Eck. Items here to be handled separately. Seeing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, that report has been approved. Protection and Policy Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens and seconded by Alder Presley. Items here to be handled separately. Three?
4.
3 and 4. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the report has been approved with the exception of items 3 and 4. Wishes on item 3. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet. Seconded by Alder Hutchison. That was pulled by Alder Eck. You have the floor.
Yes, and before I say anything, I would like to refer to the Chief Davis to speak on the item, please.
Okay. Chief Davis.
Sure. So my understanding on this is that our staff recommended not approving this application. We have a little bit of history, if it's helpful for council. We went to this establishment in May and just spoke to the owner about the new ordinance and the requirements of the ordinance. And then on August 27th, the officers returned and did a compliance check and found 2 folks doing massage work at the business, neither of whom had a state license. And then again on September 5th, looks like we were out there with some folks from inspection and investigating a complaint about people living in the spa. There was a bed set up there, business was open, and there was a customer actually working with a person who was not licensed. There were citations issued at that point. And then there's a follow-up on September 9th. Looks like where we assisted inspection, just doing a follow-up from the 5th, and it looks like those issues were remedied, and then this went to P&P on September 9th. And then since then, we've done a couple of unscheduled compliance checks on September 12th and again on September 20th, where there was the owner who is licensed was the only person on site, and so we did not note any violations on those visits. But our staff felt, and I agree with them, that just given the pattern that emerged after our educational efforts between then and when they sought their license, that there is some risk here involved in granting the license to the applicant.
Got it. Thanks, Chief. Alder Eck.
So based on this, if there, you know, we've gone through the, getting the process of getting this ordinance passed, and in the case where we've asked the police, we've asked GBPD to help and make recommendations, and they did not change the recommendation even after going there. And out of respect for that, I would like to amend the motion and to deny it.
You can just make a motion to deny.
Motion to deny. Okay. She made a motion to
Is
approve.
there a second for that? Seconded by Alder Weary. Any other discussion from council? Yeah. Alder Hutchison.
Okay, so I'm on the committee that recommends approval for this establishment. Based on the fact they filled out the forms, the building was inspected, found to meet the criteria. Ultimately, the establishment, the personnel inside met the criteria on 2 occasions when the police came and inspected the facility. The fact that they're gonna get a license doesn't mean they gotta go for the year. They can be inspected throughout the year to see if there's a problem. I think if we vote to not give a license to this establishment, we're saying you can meet the requirements at the time of the meeting of getting your license. And even though you meet everything, we're not gonna give it to you. I think that's a bad thing to establish. If during those visits, there was things that didn't meet the criteria, I would be saying a different thing right now. But 2 visits out of the blue, everything okay, I don't see an issue when we can go back and visit that site again. And if they're found out of compliance, then it can come before us again. So I would recommend approval of this license. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Prophet.
Yeah, I would just also like to note, item 2 was also recommended a denial by PD, and we, as this body, just approved that one. So I think we opened ourselves up to what the applicant themselves for item 3 said and opened up prejudice. So I think if we're not gonna pull 2 and have the same conversation with 2, what makes 3 any different in terms of the massage establishment license? Both had issues with their first check, follow-up checks, they were in compliance, they were doing what was asked of them. I think we're opening ourselves up if we're just gonna pick on 3 and 2 had the same exact issue.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Eck.
A couple things. If you look them up, and I did talk to the attorney about this, and she told me there was one particular thing I could bring up, and one of the reviews done was talking about all they care about is happy endings and their tips. And although it doesn't specifically say what a happy ending is, there is an indication of what that is. And they're on websites where they don't hide it, so it's very obvious, okay? So based on that, that's very concerning. And to have only one person licensed there, and they're open, I believe she said 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's very unrealistic to say that there's one person that is actually doing that. But my understanding, it wasn't out of the blue that they showed, that the PD showed up. It was announced at the September 9th P&P committee meeting that there was a request for surprise visits to the establishments within the next 2 weeks. So therefore, they did have a heads up, unfortunately. So, you know, preparing for that. They knew about it, that it was gonna happen. That happened. The difference between 3 and 2 would be, there's not that extra having a website. I don't agree with them lying to the police and saying that they didn't have an RN. I'm only talking about 2 because it was brought up. And it was trying to say, I don't need the license because I'm a licensed RN, and he wasn't. So I don't agree with that, but it was really a misjudgment in that and just trying to not get the license, so.
But also.
And I do struggle with it, I will say that.
Thanks, Alder. Any other comments on the motion? Alder Galvin, then Alder Weir.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm a little confused here, folks, so just give me a chance to, are we talking about Spence Street or West Mason?
1136
Mason.
West Mason.
Okay. And the PD went there and there were violations along with inspection? They went back 2 more times and everything was in compliance? Okay, and the violations when the PD went there was? Yeah, I'm asking
Chief
someone that
Dav-
can answer.
Chief Davis.
Sure, so, looks like we went there twice, once on August 27th, once on September 5th, and both times found unlicensed people doing massage work. And then on the September 5th visit, looks like someone had also set up a bed there as if maybe someone was living there, which would be a violation.
Okay, so we went there in August, there were violations, we went there in September, there were still violations,
Right.
and then we went back again and everything was hunky-dory.
On September 9th, there was a scheduled visit where, at least at that time, inspection issues were remedied. And then 2 unscheduled compliance checks that I believe arose out of the discussion on September
Okay.
9th at PNP on the 12th and the 20th, both times also in compliance.
Okay, and there were no issues with those 2 surprise inspections, correct?
That's correct.
And there's only 1 licensed operator there. I would ask the city attorney, is this like a bar where you have to have a licensed operator on premise and other people can serve, or is this a deal where the only people that can perform massages are licensed individually?
So the massage establishment license can be held by a non-massage therapist or a person not licensed by the state, but in order for them to provide any massage or bodywork services, that can only be done by a licensed massage therapist from the state. In this case, the applicant is both the owner and applying for the massage establishment license. She's the owner, and she's also a licensed massage therapist, licensed by the state.
Okay. And Alder Eck, your concern is that this establishment is open quite a bit, and she's the only one that can provide a massage? Okay. Thank you very much.
And they weren't surprise visits, in my opinion.
The other 2 after the announced, you don't think they were surprised? Okay. And then you said there's something that appears on some kind of entertainment page, and what is that?
Which website?
What shows up?
Oh, well, there's many things, but are we able to talk back and forth like this? So it talks about, they care about happy endings and getting tips. At the very bottom, it says that they sell the blue ED pill. That's one of the things on there. And there's some other things talking about how many women they have, and they introduce a new one each week. These are all things that were on there.
On the site
Rubs.
relative to this address?
Yes.
Okay, and I would ask the city attorney a question then, if I could. As our ordinance reads, is this of a concern, do you think? These kind of advertisements?
Sure, so the advertisements, I think this constituent submitted those to several alders as a comment. I had suggested previous to the person that they send them to the police department. I reviewed the file myself, and one of those reviews was linked to this address. It said it was a year ago. I did tell alders that this individual, which was brought up at PNP, that she's only owned the business for a year. So it's really just something you can consider, that information that was provided to you, just like any other public comment. Whether we can verify those advertisements is, a question beyond that this individual actually posted those, or that they were about her business while she was operating them. That's unclear.
And how hard, if we do grant this license, is it like a liquor license, somewhat or to extremely difficult to take it away?
It's a process where, just like we have compliance now, compliance checks, if we find non-compliance, certainly we would, that'd be probably a question for the chief, I apologize for stepping in there, but we would want to regain compliance, and certainly, just like in the case of an alcohol license, if we were out of compliance for some period of time or had violations, we'd probably, the law department would move to suspend or revoke, depending on the circumstances. Similar process, a little bit different procedure, but it would potentially be a suspension or revocation.
I guess my concern is after having seen what the process is for taking liquor license away from establishments, if we grant this and then there's further violations, this could be one of these dark, deep holes our municipal court and our legal department and the PD end up with, where sometimes there isn't any kind of resolution for a year or more. And that's my concern, that something like this would happen. But as the chief said, they've been there 3 times and everything's been compliant. So did they get the message and they're operating properly? The advertisements is disturbing. But apparently that, we can't use that in making a decision, it seems like, whether to not give the license or not, to a certain extent. So, all right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Weary?
Mayor, yeah, I wouldn't worry about precedents. I've been around long enough that you do what you think is right. You know, a lot of times we handle same licenses for same types of things. One gets it, one doesn't. Nobody comes back and sues us. You do what you think is right. Pretty clear as the nose on your face here what's going on. I agree with our police department. Use your best judgment, but let's vote no.
Thanks, Alder.
Or I'm sorry, let's vote yes to deny. I
Motion
meant
to-
no to, yeah.
Yeah, motion is to deny. Additional comments? Couple, Alder Presley?
The additional information that Alder Eck brought up, that isn't part of our packet, right? That's not something that we can really take into account with this. That's something that I think should be investigated and should go through PD, but PD did not put that evidence in when making or when suggesting that the license should be revoked. So when I'm voting, I'm just going on the fact that there were inspections. There was an inspection that passed, or there were inspections that failed and subsequent inspections have passed. So the supplemental information, until that is investigated and searched through PD, I don't really take that at any value. I mean, you can make a comment online about anything you want. So it's concerning, but it's not something that I don't think we can really, we can take into consideration right now.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Prophet? And Alder Johnson after that.
There's a lot of good discussion brought up during this, so I'm going to make sure I stick to my notes. Yes, there are reviews on this one. Back on July 30th, this same body approved another massage establishment license that has similar reviews online. Again, I just think we had the applicant themselves say, I did, like crying at Protection and Policy, saying, I did what you asked of me. Some of these reviews, as was noted, were prior to her being the owner of the establishment. And to Alder Galvin's point, these actually get renewed every May. So even if we approve tonight, they're back here in May and they have to go through this whole process again. It is a yearly one, as written in our ordinance. My understanding was it goes straight to quasi. If there's any issues that come up with PD, I don't know if that is truthful or not, but that was my understanding, is that it doesn't go through the same types of processes, but it goes straight to quasi. So I don't know if legal, that was my understanding. And then in terms of surprise visits, I did make that recommendation at PNP back on September 9th. However, there was 2 weeks window and she's open 7 to 9, Sunday to Saturday. So I do think there's still some validity into the fact that there was a surprise visit, not just once but twice, and I do think it's still a valid surprise. But yeah, again, we approved one with similar reviews back on July 30th, so thanks.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Davis, sort of acknowledging what Alder Presley had mentioned, is that this information wasn't contained in the packet. Is this the type of thing that your department would typically investigate, and if so, I mean, could they put a report together for that?
I can't really speak to why this wasn't in the packet. I don't think we had that information. I think, we can investigate anything with a potential criminal nexus, and I think there is probably enough in what the alder has provided to open a criminal investigation and see if there's prostitution activity happening there. How long that would take obviously depends on the level of cooperation we get and how we're able to investigate this. But I just want to be careful until we until I have all the information in front of me, to 100% commit to this, but this sounds like something we could probably open a criminal investigation on, just based on what the information we have.
Okay, and a question for the attorney. It was mentioned at Protection and Policy that this individual could continue to operate until this body took action. If this body were to hold this item, is that still the case?
Yes, I think that's how the massage establishment license process has been working this year. Because it's the first year, we haven't obviously said they have to close. We've been working through the licensing process. So I wouldn't see a change in that, whether you decide to hold it or not. We're not going to be able to shut them down. We were letting others operate while they work through the process.
Okay, so it's, and I appreciate the points being made here, and I'm always very, very leery about sort of revoking or rescinding someone's rights. I'm very slow in that process and very hesitant to do so. But when look, just Google the phone number. I mean, this is the phone number that they publish, and, you know, top escorts, lots of emojis, lots of photos. There's enough connection here that I think that we have to pause, say we created this process for a reason, and there's enough information here that's being presented through a simple Google search that says to me, PD ought to look at this before we continue with this process. But I'm also, again, very hesitant to say deny when when PD hasn't given us a direct linkage to something of that nature, though enough obviously to make their recommendation. So I think they ought to come back with that information, and so I'm going to make a motion to hold and then ask PD to come back to the next meeting with a report on some of this stuff that we're talking about right now.
I'll second that.
Alder Johnson makes a motion to hold, seconded by Alder Galvin. Attorney Kochart, does motion to hold take precedence over motion to deny?
Can have two motions.
Mhm.
I think it can.
Okay.
You can have two motions.
What's, repeat that?
You can have two motions.
Well, we have three
Yes. we have-
right now.
Approve, deny, and hold.
Yep.
Sorry, two beyond that initial one, I think is what it.
But Attorney Kochart said it's in order, so
Okay.
we have a motion and a second to hold. That was made by Johnson, seconded by Galvin. Discussion on that motion? Yeah, Alder Galvin, then Alder Eck.
I guess my concern with this process is, and Chief, in no way am I saying anything negative about the police department, because this is new for us. And I think like when community police were doing checks on taverns and developing the process that we have in place, there were some stumbles and stuff that we missed that, through experience, we learned to rework it, and I think that process has been reworked several times based on, things that happened. And I'm just wondering if, and obviously you haven't been briefed on this whole thing down to the finite stuff, so I think if we're going to hold it and send it back to the department and inspection also look at the process that's going to be in place and what the expectations will be, so that this council is informed of everything, so we don't end up with something like this as an after fact and then having to rework stuff all over again. So I'm just asking that inspection and the PD work together to develop a process that's going to look into every nook and cranny in these kind of application processes. Thank you.
And Chief Davis wants to respond there, but before we do, Attorney Bungert usually tells us we need a date certain or a meeting certain for the motion to hold.
Sorry, next meeting, I said.
Okay, next
We
meeting.
didn't catch that.
Sounds good. Chief Davis.
As far as process goes, I think some additional clarity from council as to how far into the background you want us to get. We're looking at some advertisements
Yeah.
that we've found through a Google search of the phone number that causes some concern. I don't know that we anticipated searching people's ads for evidence. We certainly could. And then how to present that information to council in a way that's going to help you make an informed decision would be helpful. In this case, we have some, looks like, and I just saw this information introduced into this today.
Right.
Some potential indications of illegal activity, and that can, we'll open a criminal investigation related to that. Obviously, whatever the outcome of that is would be a matter for us and the district attorney if we find enough evidence to charge someone with a crime as a result of that investigation. But I think that's something, I struggle a little bit with the intersection of what now becomes a criminal investigation versus just a background investigation into a business.
Well, and I guess that's my question. I mean, usually these sites, back when I was working, was something that would come to our attention every once in a while. We set up some sting operations. We would or would not make some arrests, and, and then life goes on. But here we're asking you, an inspection, to look into what happens when we show up at the place. Well, this is what happened. This is the steps we took. Prior complaints, arrest records, things like that. And like it was said here by, I think, Alder Prophet, one of these sites was up and had a completely different owner who had no connection to that. So, I mean, they're getting a bad name from something they had no control over. If they didn't even know it existed, how do you get it taken down? So, absolutely, I think we need to, we're not asking for the investigation of a homicide here or something like that, but we also want to be able to know that going forward that we're not going to end up having a license given out and then 6 months later something like this would blow up. And it's not a good look for the city, it's not a good look for us if we're not doing our jobs right. So I guess I would lean on the PD and inspection to work out what they think is best processes to do a good search without turning it into like a major crime investigation every time.
I think we can, I think what we can do is just start doing searches of publicly available information like advertising, because I do think that could help inform these discussions. What we're trying to do in this setting is a risk assessment.
Right.
We have identified some behavior that we have seen that suggests to us that the risk is elevated in this case, and so we've made the recommendation we have, but we can always look at publicly available information to help aid counsel in that decision.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Eck.
Okay, just a couple things in response about any, like, previous recommendations and being approved, and it's, at the time, the GBPD did not recommend denial, so it's a different circumstance. So I don't want to compare that because it was not recommended as a denial. Just reminding everybody. And I know that this establishment, whether I can say the name, had a different address, a previous address. So I don't know whether records go with the establishment. I know she said she hasn't owned it that long. It was a different location. Just, there's a lot to it. I've been doing a lot of research because that was why I, was so involved in getting this ordinance passed. So I do have a lot of information about all of that. And I will say the owner declined to come tonight, so she's not here. So we can't pull her forward, to ask her to come forward, and she was told that we would be talking about it, so.
Okay.
Just want to make that point.
Yeah, thank you. Chief Faulds, did you have somebody? Oh, got it. Alder Hankfist, go ahead.
As an alder for the city, it seems like she's asking for a license. She's owned the business for 1 year. I'm struggling with the hold because can we really do an investigation, in 2 weeks, or do we just provide her the license and continue to do, the checks and making sure that she's operating as she should be. So right now, if we go with a hold, I would probably go with that, but otherwise I would vote yes.
Okay, thanks, Alder. Additional comments on the motion to hold? Alder Presley.
Thank you. Yeah, I am happy with the motion to hold. I think that's a good compromise here because I would not feel comfortable flat out denying this based on, with all due respect to Alder Eck, like your research has not been verified in the way that I would need to feel comfortable saying there is certainly something going on here, certainly some strong risk. The risk that was presented to me was the risk of people occupying the establishment as a residency or non-licensed people. That seems to be cleared up. So the extraneous things, I'm not going to take into my decision until they've been brought forward in the packet with some more information behind them.
Okay, thanks, Alder. Alder Hutchison.
I'd also be okay with a hold, just to gather more information. I think we should hopefully get the people who want this license here so they have a chance to talk about where they're coming from and their timeframes of what happened when, just so we have the whole complete picture. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Any other comments? Alder Prophet.
I would just say I'm okay with a hold. I would, if we can, make sure we have legal's input, because I was told, I can't take into account Google reviews when looking at some of these. So whatever's included in our packet would be great, because right now we have an approval of a background check and an inspection approval, and my understanding is that's what we were taking into account. So whatever's included with the hold, I just want to make sure we're doing the legal thing here.
Yeah, so just a quick note about Alder Eck's comments. The email that she received was from a constituent, and the individual who runs the business district the business improvement district in her district. So not unlike all of you received comments from your constituent, that's the vein in which I think that was taken and reviewed when I talked to Alder Eck about it. It was information from her constituent who's, I think, also a business owner and leads the business improvement district of which this business applicant falls in. And I think that was, as far as, I would defer to Alder Eck, but I think that was the information and how it was provided to her, because it was her district. But it's come up since PNP, just to clarify.
I did.
Alder Eck.
That-
Yeah, go ahead.
So I did get that all put together in a package from her, but I already had done my own research. She just sent it as a PDF so that I could forward it on. So I appreciated that because she already had that done, but it wasn't anything that I didn't see myself in doing my own search. But, and I understand that you're saying that it's not using that, but it is something that is out there, so.
Right.
It's information that's available, but my point is the Green Bay Police Department has recommended denial. That's what I really am focusing on.
Okay. Alder Prophet.
I apologize, Attorney Kochart, but just for my own stomach for clarification, are we allowed to do our own research and take Google reviews into account with our decision, or are we only supposed to take into account our agenda packet?
So a couple of things there. One, I think when we say verified things, we talk about the citations and other things that were issued by the police department versus allegations, right? So if someone is alleged to have done something and there's a complaint, maybe the warning is issued in a citation. If that person was, they found not guilty of their citation, we don't include that. And that's usually during a quasi-judicial process. In this licensing process, information from constituents and own research, I anticipate that most of you do that outside of your meetings before you come to these meetings. Generally, that's exclusive of quasi-judicial process where we ask you not to do outside research. But I do, in all circumstances, suggest that you make sure you're using verified information or information that you know to be true or your constituents' comments, and not things like they were charged with a crime and found not guilty, because those things would be discriminatory if we use them against a person.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to hold to the next meeting of the Common Council. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item is held over. Next is item 4, and that would, do we have a motion there?
Motion to table.
Motion to table made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Weary. Your wishes or your comments there, Alder Johnson?
No.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other comments? Alder Hutchison?
Okay, so number 4 is,
That's the quarterly special meeting with alders.
okay, so you want to
Table that.
table the reference to staff. You're tabling in reference to staff?
Yeah. Alder Johnson.
Sorry, I thought we'd just go along with it. This obviously was a joint communication from Alders Weary and myself. The way that this was requested out of committee, I don't think was in the spirit of what we had intended. The purpose of tabling is because it allows us to continue to work on it behind the scenes, maybe come back with some amendments. I don't think I'm ready for that discussion today, and then it would require a motion in the future to pull it off the table. But if we were to deny it tonight, my understanding is it wouldn't be able to be brought back until the next legislative cycle. The reason we don't want to hold is because hold typically means you're identifying a specific date in the future when it will return. We're not ready to identify that date. So just table it, and it kind of just goes quiet until we bring it back, unless anyone else here is screaming to bring this up.
No, thank you for the clarification.
Yep, okay.
All right, thanks, Alder Johnson. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been tabled. Next, report of the Protection and Policy Committee granting operator licenses. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Any names to be handled separately or abstentions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it, that report has been approved. Plan Commission? Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Finance Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Galvin. Items here to be handled separately. Hearing none, all in favor will say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it, that report has been approved. Park Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Eck. Discussion there? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Report of the Personnel Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Presley, seconded by Alder Prophet. Discussion here? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and that item, that report has been approved. Next up is report of the Public Arts Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder DeLee, seconded by Alder Galvin. Comments on that from Alder Johnson?
Yeah, I'd just like to propose a very minor amendment. Within the RFP, it states that the scoring will be conducted by 3 or 4 individuals. I'd just like to make a motion to amend it to say that it will be scored by a minimum of 3 people. And the purpose of the amendment is because there seems to be a lot of people interested in this and maybe participating in scoring. In this case, I think more is better, and I'd hate to just artificially cap us at 4. So that's the only reason.
Okay, Alder Johnson makes the motion to designate a minimum of 3 individuals to evaluate the proposals, seconded by Alder Galvin. Discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. The amendment
Great job to staff.
has succeeded. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve is amended.
Motion to approve is amended made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved as amended. Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Items here to be handled separately? Hearing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Sustainability. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Presley. Items here for separate consideration. Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Got one resolution.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt made by Alder Johnson. Seconded by Alder Galvin. Any discussion? We will use the board.
You may vote.
Celestine, mine's not coming up, so you can just put a yes.
Thank you. Alder DeLee? Yes. Thank you. May display.
All right, that resolution is adopted unanimously. On to ordinances, first reading. I think we want, looking to staff, we want a first and final on the new W4, is that right? So entertain a motion to suspend on those first 3. Motion to suspend the rules, take it 1 through 3 with one roll call vote has been made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to advance made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Presley. Discussion there. Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Those ordinances have been advanced to a second and final reading. Now on to W4, which was K2.
Just give me a moment, Mayor, please.
And-
A2.
And on that one, we would,
Motion.
I don't know if staff wants to just explain why we need the first and final, or is it just a matter of timing? Director?
Yep, I believe that the last council meeting, there was an error in that we put the word, we left the word university in that, but all the other legal things were correct on it. So instead of wasting that week, we'd like to just move that forward if we could with this change here.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So we need a motion to suspend the rules for first and final reading. Alder Eck makes that motion, seconded by Alder Prophet. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Galvin. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll use the board.
You may vote. Alder DeLee?
Yes.
Thank you. May display.
All right, those are unanimous with one abstention. No petitions and communications. Adjournment. Motion to adjourn made by Alder DeLee, seconded by Alder Eck. All in favor say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.